3 days ago, my life was normal in the quiet, forgettable way you never question while you're living it. School mornings, half-finished coffee, a 12-year-old girl who still asked me to braid her hair before bed. I didn't know that within 72 hours, I'd be sitting awake at 2 in the morning, watching my daughter sleep because I was terrified to let her out of my sight. My boyfriend said, "Your daughter needs to learn a lesson about vanity." Then he shaved off all her hair and filmed it for TikTok. My daughter Lily is 12. I didn't see it happen. I saw it the way 500,000 strangers did, on my phone, at work, when my screen lit up with messages that didn't make sense yet. My hands started shaking before my brain caught up. By the time I opened the video, it already had over 500,000 views. The number kept climbing while I stood there, frozen, watching my child cry on a screen. Now I'm here, in the dim glow of a nightlight, listening to Lily's uneven breathing as she sleeps curled on her side like she did when she was little. Her head is covered with a soft knit beanie, even in her sleep. She won't take it off anymore. She avoids mirrors. She flinches when someone reaches toward her head. 3 days ago, I thought I knew the man I let into our home. 3 days ago, I believed my daughter was safe here. I keep replaying the same questions on a loop. How did I miss this? How did I ignore the comments, the judgments, the way he spoke about discipline like it was something you enforced instead of earned? How does a grown man look at a crying child, my child, and decide humiliation is a lesson worth teaching? The worst part isn't just the video. It's knowing that while Lily begged him to stop, he kept talking to the camera, calm, confident, smiling like he was doing something noble. I rest my hand lightly on Lily's back, counting each breath like proof she's still here, still safe, still mine. The house is silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my own heartbeat pounding too loud in my ears. 3 days ago, I was just a mother trying to balance work, grief, and raising a child alone. Tonight, I'm something else entirely. And this is how everything began to fall apart. Before everything broke, our life had a rhythm that felt earned, not perfect, just steady enough to breathe inside. Lily and I had already survived the worst thing imaginable together. Her father died when she was 8. Sudden, unfair, the kind of loss that leaves a house too quiet afterward. One day he was there, teasing her at the kitchen counter while she tried to sit still, telling her to stop squirming so he could fix her hair properly. The next, he was gone. After that, our world shrank. I learned how to carry everything at once. Work, grief, parenting, the constant low-grade fear that I'd miss something important. Lily learned how to be brave too early. She stopped crying in front of other people. She held herself together at school. At home, she came apart in small, exhausted pieces. Her hair became something sacred between us, not because it made her pretty, but because it made her feel close to him. After her father died, Lily decided she wanted to grow it long. He used to brush it every morning before school, slow and careful, like it mattered. He'd joke that good hair took patience, that you didn't rush things that were worth keeping. When Lily sat on the floor watching YouTube tutorials, braids, twists, those complicated updos, I'd sit behind her, awkward fingers learning what he used to do so easily. She'd talk about him while I worked through the knots, about his laugh, his bad jokes, the way he always said her hair looked strong. It wasn't vanity, it was memory. I met my boyfriend 9 months ago at a work event I almost skipped. He seemed grounded in a way that felt reassuring after years of survival mode, confident posture, controlled voice. He talked about fitness, discipline, self-improvement, words that sounded responsible, safe. He asked questions. He listened. Or at least, I thought he did. At first, he was fine with Lily. Polite, distant but respectful. He complimented her grades, said she was well-behaved, told me I was doing a good job under difficult circumstances. That meant more to me than I wanted to admit. Single motherhood comes with a constant, quiet fear that you're failing in ways you can't see. We moved too fast. I see that now. 4 months in, he moved into our house. It felt practical, easier. He framed it as support, helping me juggle work, being a stable male influence for Lily. I wanted to believe that stability mattered more than caution. The comments started small. She spends too much time on her appearance. Kids today are obsessed with looks. That kind of focus leads to entitlement. I pushed back, at first gently, then more firmly. He always had an explanation. I'm just concerned. I'm trying to help. You're too soft because you're compensating for her dad. That one lodged itself somewhere uncomfortable. Looking back, there were signs I didn't name clearly enough. The way he watched Lily, evaluating. The way he talked about discipline like it was something enforced, not taught. The way he assumed authority he hadn't earned. But life was busy. Work was demanding. Grief doesn't disappear. It just goes quiet sometimes. And quiet can feel like peace if you're tired enough. The day everything fell apart was a Tuesday. Ordinary, forgettable, until it wasn't. And by the time I realized the man I brought into our home wasn't who I thought he was, the damage had already been done. The shift didn't happen all at once. It crept in quietly, disguised as concern. At first, it was just tone. A sigh when Lily took too long in the bathroom. A comment tossed out like a joke that didn't quite land. "She's very focused on how she looks, huh?" he'd say, glancing at her reflection instead of her face. Lily would freeze every time, hands still in her hair, eyes flicking to me to see if she was in trouble. I corrected him, calmly, repeatedly. "She's 12. She likes experimenting. It makes her feel close to her dad." He'd nod, smile, back off temporarily. But the comments kept returning, sharper each time, less curious, more judgmental. "She spends hours watching beauty videos. Kids today are being taught that appearance equals value. You don't think that's a problem?" I started noticing how he watched Lily, not with warmth, but with assessment, like she was a habit he wanted to break. He'd interrupt her mid-sentence to redirect the conversation. He'd correct her posture at the table. He'd tell her to stop fussing with your hair when she tucked it behind her ear out of nervous habit. Lily grew quieter around him. She stopped asking me to braid her hair when he was home. She'd wait until he left the room, then whisper, "Can we do it later?" Like it was something shameful. I told myself it was an adjustment phase, new household dynamics. Kids need time. That's what I told myself. The arguments between us started the same way every time. Low, controlled, meant to sound reasonable. "You're raising her to be superficial." "That's not true. She's obsessed. She's grieving." "You're projecting?" That word, projecting. He used it like a weapon. Like any emotion I showed was proof I wasn't thinking clearly. When I pushed back harder, his voice would drop, slow and deliberate. "I'm not attacking you, I'm trying to help. You're too emotionally involved to see this clearly. Someone has to be the adult." Each time, something inside me tightened. A warning I ignored. The morning before everything happened, Lily came downstairs with her hair in a loose braid she'd practiced for days. She looked proud, nervous, waiting for approval she didn't ask for out loud. My boyfriend glanced up from his phone. "You're not going to wear that to school, are you?" Lily's shoulders dropped. It's distracting," he said flatly. "School is for learning, not showing off." I stepped in. "She likes it. There's nothing wrong with that." He didn't argue. He just smiled, thin and controlled, like he was filing the moment away. Later that night, I found Lily in her room brushing her hair slowly, over and over, like she was trying to calm herself. "He doesn't like it," she said quietly. I sat beside her on the bed. "You're not doing anything wrong." She nodded, but she didn't look convinced. That should have been the moment I drew a hard line. The moment I said enough. The moment I realized concern had turned into control. Instead, I told myself tomorrow would be better. Tomorrow was Tuesday. I went to work believing the house was safe, believing boundaries were clear, believing I'd step in if things went too far. I didn't know that while I was handling a vendor crisis, my phone silenced and forgotten on my desk. A man who thought he knew better was deciding that my daughter needed to be taught a lesson, and that he was going to make sure the world watched. Tuesday started like every other weekday. Rushed. Predictable. I kissed Lily on the top of her head as she grabbed her backpack, reminded her to text me when she got home, and left with my mind already buried in work. Nothing about the morning felt fragile. Nothing warned me that I was walking away from the last normal moment we'd have for a long time. By mid-morning, everything spiraled. A vendor crisis blew up. Meetings stacked on top of each other. My phone stayed face down on my desk, buzzing occasionally, but I couldn't break away. I told myself I'd check it later. I always did. Around 3 o'clock, I finally caught a pause. I flipped my phone over, and my stomach dropped. Missed calls. Dozens of texts. Names that didn't usually appear together. Neighbors. Lily's friend's mom. My sister, who lived 3 hours away. The messages blurred together as my pulse spiked. "Is Lily okay? Please tell me this isn't real. Have you seen the video?" My hands started shaking before I understood why. I opened TikTok. The video was already there, right at the top of my feed. My boyfriend's account. Posted 2 hours earlier. Over 500,000 views. I pressed play. Lily was sitting in a chair in our kitchen. crying. Her shoulders were hunched, hands clenched in her lap. My boyfriend stood behind her, scissors in his hand, then clippers. Hair fell in thick, uneven chunks onto the tile while Lily sobbed, her voice breaking as she begged him to stop. "Please," she cried, "please stop, I'm sorry." He spoke calmly to the camera, like he was explaining a recipe. "Society teaches girls that their worth is in their looks," he said. "This is what happens when we let vanity take over. Sometimes tough love is necessary." I felt sick. The clippers buzzed. More hair fell. Lily's sobs turned desperate, panicked. He didn't pause. He didn't look at her. He kept talking, to strangers, about character and discipline and lessons. The video ended with Lily's head shaved down to stubble, her face red and swollen, mascara streaked everywhere. The caption read, "Teaching stepdaughter about real beauty. It grows back. Tough love. Parenting win." I threw up into the trash can beside my desk. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. I ran. I called Lily's phone. No answer. The house phone. Voicemail. I don't remember the drive, only that I broke every speed limit I could without thinking about consequences. When I burst through the front door, the house smelled wrong. Hair. The bathroom was locked. I could hear Lily crying inside. My boyfriend was on the couch, scrolling through his phone, smiling. "Hey, babe," he said, "you're home early. Did you see? It's blowing up." I couldn't speak. I went straight to the bathroom door. "Lily, baby, it's me. Open the door, please." It took forever. When she finally unlocked it, she collapsed into my arms, shaking. "He wouldn't stop," she sobbed. "I begged him. He was laughing." I turned around slowly. "Did you just assault my daughter and film it?" He scoffed. "Assault? Don't be ridiculous. It's a haircut." "Get out," I said. He stood up. "This is my home too. We're partners. I was helping parent your daughter, something you're clearly too soft to do." I picked up my phone and dialed 911. His face changed instantly. "Wait, what are you doing?" "I'm reporting child abuse," I said, moving Lily behind me as the operator answered. He lunged for the phone. I stepped away, gave our address, explained everything, told them about the video. They said officers were on the way. He started pacing, muttering, "This is insane. It was just a haircut." 10 minutes later, the police were at the door. I showed them the video, showed them Lily, showed them the hair still scattered across the kitchen floor. And in that moment, with my daughter shaking in my arms and the evidence playing on my phone, I knew there was no going back. Once the police took control of the room, time started moving in a strange, distorted way, too fast and not fast enough all at once. A female officer crouched in front of Lily, lowering herself to her level. Her voice softened, careful. "Sweetheart, can you tell me what happened?" Lily clutched my shirt like it was the only thing keeping her upright. Her words came out in broken pieces. She talked about coming home from school, about how he told her they needed to talk about priorities, about being grabbed, pushed into the chair, the clippers buzzing while she screamed. I felt every sentence like a blow to the chest. The officer's expression hardened. She stood and looked at her partner. "That's assault and battery on a minor." My boyfriend exploded. "Child abuse? Are you kidding me? It was a haircut." "You're not her parent," the officer said flatly. "You have zero legal authority over this child. I live here. I help raise her." The male officer turned to me. "Ma'am, do you want to press charges?" I looked down at Lily. Her body was rigid, breath coming in shallow bursts, eyes wide like she was still trapped in that chair. Then I looked at the man who had done this, who still looked offended, not remorseful. "Yes," I said. My voice didn't shake. "I do." They handcuffed him right there in our living room. He shouted as they led him out about how I was ruining his life, how Lily was spoiled, how people online agreed with him. "Check the comments," he yelled, twisting to look at me one last time. I was helping. The officer told me not to delete the video. Evidence. They gave me information for a victim's advocate and told me to take Lily to the hospital to document the cuts on her scalp. When the door finally closed behind them, the house went silent in a way that felt wrong, like the air had been punched out of it. I sank to the floor with Lily in my arms. I called my sister first. She didn't ask questions. She just said, "I'm coming," and started driving. I called Lily's therapist and begged for an emergency appointment. That night, Lily slept in my bed, curled tight against my side like she was 8 again. Every time I tried to close my eyes, I saw the video, her begging, his calm voice explaining her pain to a camera. I didn't sleep. The next days blurred together. Police reports, hospital visits, photographs of her scalp, red, irritated, small cuts where the clippers had scraped too hard. I held her hand through all of it, apologizing over and over, even though I knew it wasn't enough. Within a week, charges were filed: assault and battery on a minor, child endangerment. Bail set low enough that his mother paid it the next morning. I got a restraining order within 24 hours. He couldn't come within 500 feet of Lily or our house. The video stayed up, 2 million views, then more. 60% of the comments were horrified. The rest defended him. Kids need tough love. It's just hair. I couldn't stop reading them, even though every word felt like someone was cutting her all over again. He posted more videos, crying about how he was just trying to help, calling me a weak mother raising a superficial princess, thanking supporters for seeing the truth. That's when I realized this wasn't over. This wasn't just about what he did. It was about what he was willing to keep doing. The arrest should have been the end of it. That's what I told myself in the brief, foolish moments when I let hope creep in. Charges filed, restraining order issued, my daughter safe beside me every night. In a rational world, that would have been enough. But he didn't stop. Everything accelerated after he got out on bail. The TikTok video was still up, now past 2 million views, and he leaned into the attention like it proved something. Within days, he posted again. This time he cried. Real tears or not, I couldn't tell. He talked about how he was being criminalized for parenting, how he loved Lily, how he was just trying to correct unhealthy behavior before it turned into entitlement. Comments poured in, validating him, praising his courage. Then came the rants. 5 minutes of him staring into the camera, calling me a weak, emotional mother, saying I was raising a superficial princess because I couldn't separate discipline from feelings, saying men like him were being silenced for telling hard truths. Each video felt like a new violation, a new way to reach into our lives from the outside. My sister insisted I get a lawyer. That's how I met Janet Kim, who specialized in family law and child welfare. The first thing she said after watching the video was, "This is the clearest case I've seen in years." She told me his continued posting was reckless. That video evidence, combined with Lily's testimony, made his situation worse every time he opened his mouth. School became another battlefield. Lily didn't want to go back. When she finally did, it only took one kid calling her Baldy for her to break down sobbing in the hallway. The child was suspended, but the damage was done. Lily started wearing scarves and beanies everywhere. She avoided mirrors. She asked me to stand outside the bathroom while she showered. Then his mother showed up at my work. Security called me down because there was a woman in the lobby demanding to see me. I should have refused. Instead, I went. She stepped into my space immediately. Tight smile, yoga pants, a shirt that said "Blessed Mama." "You need to drop the charges," she said. "Right now." I told her no. She dismissed everything, called it a mistake, said Lily was being dramatic, said hair grows back, but a criminal record lasts forever. When I said my daughter was traumatized, she rolled her eyes. When I said he had no authority over Lily, she accused me of being vindictive. Security escorted her out while she screamed that we'd regret this, that they were getting a lawyer, that we'd be sued for false arrest and defamation. That night, he texted me from a new number, violating the restraining order. Janet documented it immediately. Another violation added to the file. Then his friend posted on Facebook, tagged me, called me abusive, said I destroyed a man's life over a haircut, claimed I did it because my ego was hurt. Mutual friends saw it. Some agreed. Then someone shared my work email in a Justice for Him group. My inbox flooded with accusations, threats, calls for CPS to investigate me. HR had to get involved. Coworkers avoided my eyes. I started questioning everything. How I spoke, how I moved, whether I looked like the villain they'd decided I was. A letter from his lawyer arrived soon after, threatening to sue me for malicious prosecution, defamation, emotional distress, loss of income, demanding I drop the charges and pay a settlement. Janet laughed when she read it. "They're desperate," she said, "and they're wrong." But desperation is loud and relentless, and it was starting to feel like the whole world was pressing in on us from every direction. The investigation week broke something in me. Not all at once, slowly, quietly, in the spaces between breaths. The CPS visit came on a Thursday afternoon. A social worker knocked on my door with a clipboard and a practiced calm that made my stomach drop anyway. I knew we'd done nothing wrong. I had documentation for everything, police reports, medical records, therapy notes, but logic doesn't silence fear when your child's safety is on the line. She interviewed Lily first. I sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug I wasn't drinking from, listening to my daughter's voice carry down the hallway. Calm. Too calm. Like she'd learned already that emotions were dangerous in front of adults with authority. When the social worker asked Lily if she felt safe with me, there was a pause that felt like hours. Yes, Lily said. My mom protects me. I cried then. Silent, shaking tears I wiped away before anyone could see. The case was closed in our favor within a week. The report described Lily as a normal child who had experienced trauma, not a vain, spoiled problem to be corrected. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like exhaustion. That same week, Lily had her first full breakdown in therapy. Dr. Singh warned me ahead of time that this was part of processing trauma, that sometimes kids hold themselves together until they finally can't. That knowing didn't make it easier to watch. Lily curled in on herself on the couch, sobbing so hard she couldn't catch her breath. I'm ugly now, she cried. Everyone's staring at me. I don't want anyone to see me ever again. I held her and told her she was beautiful, that her hair didn't define her, that none of this was her fault, but the words felt thin against the reality she was living in her body. Then she asked the question that still echoes in my head. Mom, will you ever let someone hurt me again? My chest felt like it caved in. I promised her I wouldn't. I swore it. But later, alone in the bathroom, I slid down against the door and wondered how promises could feel so fragile. The dermatologist appointment was the next blow. He examined Lily's scalp carefully, his expression tightening as he explained that aggressive shaving can damage hair follicles. Some spots might grow back unevenly. It could take a year, maybe longer. Lily stared at the floor the entire time. We got her a wig. She hated it. Said it didn't feel like her. Said it felt like lying. At night, she flinched when I hugged her from behind. She slept with the door open. She asked me to check the locks twice. 3 times. I wasn't sleeping either. I lost weight without trying. I cried in the car, in the shower. After Lily went to bed, I replayed every warning sign I'd ignored, every moment I chose convenience over caution. The trial date was set, 3 months away. It felt impossibly far and terrifyingly close all at once. That was the lowest point. Not the anger, not the fear, but the quiet belief that no matter what happened in court, something precious had already been taken from my daughter. And I didn't know how to give it back. The turning point didn't arrive with relief, it arrived with clarity. The preliminary hearing was the first time I saw him in person since the arrest. He sat at the defense table in a pressed shirt, shoulders squared, face carefully neutral. If you didn't know the story, you might have mistaken him for a man wronged by circumstance, instead of someone who had held my daughter down and filmed her pain. His lawyer tried to frame it as a misunderstanding, a parenting disagreement taken too far. Excessive charges driven by an emotional mother. The judge shut that down quickly. You are not this child's parent or legal guardian, she said, her voice sharp with finality. You forcibly restrained a minor, shaved her head without consent, and recorded the act while she was in visible distress. This matter will proceed to trial. I watched his composure crack, just for a second. Enough to know he understood. This wasn't something he could spin away with hashtags and talking points. Outside the courthouse, his mother and sister were waiting with signs. Justice for him. False charges destroy lives. They shouted as we walked past. Called Lily spoiled. Said she couldn't handle a haircut. A local reporter caught it all on camera. That clip went viral. For the first time, public opinion shifted. Not because of arguments or explanations, but because people finally saw what we'd been dealing with. The cruelty wasn't subtle anymore. It was loud, recorded, impossible to soften. Then the CPS report came back. Cleared. Thoroughly. The social worker documented Lily as a child who experienced trauma, not a behavioral problem. That report became evidence. It validated what I'd been saying all along, not just legally, but morally. The prosecution called me after that. With the video, Lily's testimony, the medical documentation, and his continued social media posts showing zero remorse, the prosecutor said, this case is very strong. Frankly, he's making our job easier. For the first time since Tuesday, I exhaled. Not because the pain was gone, but because the truth was finally louder than the noise. Lily started having better days. Still fragile, still anxious. But she laughed once during therapy. Just once. It felt monumental. She asked questions about court, about whether she'd have to see him again. I answered honestly, carefully. I told her the truth, that telling the truth was how she was helping herself now. And when she testified later, I wasn't in the room. I couldn't be. My sister held my hand in the hallway while my 12-year-old daughter spoke clearly, calmly, about what happened to her. She took something from me, Lily said, according to my sister. My hair reminded me of my dad. He took that away and filmed me crying. Multiple jurors cried. That was the moment I stopped wondering whether justice would happen, because no matter what the defense tried next, the truth had already landed, and it wasn't moving. The fallout came in waves, each one heavier than the last. The harassment didn't stop after the preliminary hearing. It intensified. Someone spray-painted child abuser across our driveway in thick red letters. I stood there staring at it while Lily watched from the window, her hands shaking. I filed a police report even though we both knew there would be no fingerprints, no witnesses. Just another reminder that cruelty spreads faster than truth. School picture day arrived like a quiet ambush. Lily wanted to wear her beanie. The school said no headwear, policy. When I tried to explain, Lily's breathing started to hitch, her hands clawing at her sleeves as panic took over. I had to pick her up early, her body folded into mine in the car while she cried. The principal eventually made an exception after I told her everything, but the damage had already been done. Then he went on a podcast. He talked about cancel culture, about parental rights, about how he'd been persecuted for trying to intervene before a child's vanity turned into something worse. The host nodded along, praising his bravery. I turned it off halfway through, nauseous. His sister launched a GoFundMe for his legal defense. The description called Lily materialistic and me vindictive. It raised thousands before the platform shut it down for violating terms about funding assault defense. Every refunded dollar still felt like a betrayal. Hundreds of people had believed him enough to open their wallets. The dermatologist delivered another quiet blow. The aggressive shaving had damaged follicles. Lily might have permanent thin spots. A year, maybe more, before things evened out, if they ever did. Lily stared at the floor while he spoke. On the drive home, she asked if she'd ever look normal again. I didn't know how to answer. Trial week arrived like a storm. They played the video in court, on a big screen. Lily's cries echoed through the courtroom, raw and unfiltered. Jurors cried openly. Some looked away. He sat expressionless. His lawyer objected, prejudicial, inflammatory, and the judge overruled every time. Evidence is evidence. Lily testified on the second day. I couldn't be in the room. I paced the hallway while my sister sat with me, relaying details afterward. Lily spoke clearly. She told the truth. When the defense suggested she was dramatic and overly focused on appearance, Lily answered quietly, I just wanted to keep my hair because it reminded me of my dad. The courtroom went still. The defense called his mother as a character witness. It backfired spectacularly. When asked whether forcibly shaving a crying child's head counted as discipline, she said yes, if it taught humility. Audible gasps filled the room. Even his lawyer looked defeated. The verdict came back guilty. Assault and battery on a minor. Child endangerment. Sentencing followed 2 weeks later. The judge didn't mince words. He sentenced him to 18 months, suspended to 6 with conditions, anger management, parenting classes, probation, fines, community service at a children's advocacy center. His mother screamed from the gallery and was escorted out. The civil case settled shortly after. Insurance paid for therapy and damages, not everything we wanted, enough to keep Lily supported. His social media accounts were banned. Platforms followed suit. Hundreds of thousands of followers vanished overnight. Friends who defended him went quiet. The noise finally started to fade. But consequences don't undo trauma. Lily's hair is growing back, slowly, unevenly. She wears her wig most days. Therapy continues. Panic attacks are less frequent now, but trust comes back inch by inch. The fallout didn't just land on him. It changed us. And we're still standing in the middle of it. The house is quieter now, but it's a different kind of quiet than before. Not the fragile silence of fear, the softer kind. The kind that comes after something terrible has passed through and left scars instead of chaos. Lily's hair is coming back in uneven patches, light and soft against her scalp. Some mornings she wears the wig. Some days she doesn't. Progress doesn't move in straight lines, and I've stopped trying to force it to. Dr. Singh says healing happens when safety feels consistent. So that's what I focus on, being consistent. She asked me one night, weeks after sentencing, Mom, will you ever date anyone again? I didn't answer right away. I thought about how easily I trusted, how I ignored my instincts because I wanted peace more than conflict, how I convinced myself that discomfort was normal. Not for a long time, I said honestly. And if I ever do, you get veto power. No one comes into our lives unless you feel completely safe. She nodded, satisfied. That was enough. I stepped back at work. My boss adjusted my hours so I could be home more. Less ambition, more presence. The kind of trade I don't regret for a second. I started therapy too. Not because I wanted to relive what happened, but because guilt is sneaky. It hides inside questions like, how did I miss this? And what kind of mother lets this happen? Therapy helped me understand something important. Responsibility and blame are not the same thing. He is responsible for what he did. I am responsible for what I do next. Justice didn't fix everything. It didn't erase Lily's fear or bring her father back or restore the innocence that was taken from her. But it drew a line. It said this mattered. She mattered. He wanted to teach a lesson about vanity. What he learned instead was about consequences. He has a record now, assault on a minor. Something that follows you, limits you, forces accountability in ways internet applause never does. His platforms are gone. His voice quieted. The noise faded the moment it stopped being profitable. Some nights I still see the video in my head, but then I walk down the hallway and check on Lily sleeping peacefully in her bed. Safe, healing, here. That's what matters. This chapter is over. Not because it was easy, but because we survived it. And survival, I've learned, isn't passive. It's protective. It's choosing your child again and again, even when the world tries to convince you you're overreacting. If there's a lesson in all of this, it's simple. Love that humiliates is not love. Discipline without consent is control. And protecting your child will never be the wrong choice. Now comes the slow part, the quiet rebuilding, the healing that doesn't go viral, and we'll get there.